We're back with IK Vancers, and you guys had thoughts about yesterday's video. Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell. First up, Derek C asks IK Vancers, should I get an iPad Pro M1 or wait for the iPad M2, and what storage size, since there is eject issues with internal SSDs? Now, there's no issues with using external SSDs. You can use them as much as you want. In terms of eject issues, I'm not quite sure what you mean. As long as everything's finished copying, you shouldn't have any problems. But if there is an issue out there that I'm not aware of with, files being corrupted or something along those lines, do let me know. It wasn't something I was aware of, but then I don't really use external drives with an iPad. What I would probably suggest is, for an iPad Pro, I would probably use cloud storage as much as possible. Just works really well for that sort of thing. In terms of whether you should wait for the M2 or go with the M1, the performance bumps aren't massive on M2. They are about 18% overall on CPU, a little bit more on the graphics. The big change though is the media engine. So unless you're using your iPad Pro as a graphics or like a video editing tool and you want to be encoding video on there, I probably don't think it's going to make a huge amount of difference. But here's the kicker. If you get an M1 now and you want to upgrade to an M2, you're not going to drop a great deal of value on the M1 version reselling that second hand. They don't drop value very quickly at all. So I think you're probably safe to grab one now, and if the difference is enough for you when the M2 arrives, I think you're safe to do an upgrade then. Alan B Unboxings and News asks IK Vancers, will Apple ever put a option for power adapters 20 watt, 30 watt, 35 watt, 67 watt, 140 watt on iPad Pro? Now, you can already use any of those power adapters with the iPad Pro. The thing at the moment is that you only get the 20 watt in the box. That is the power adapter that they include. I don't see them giving you the option of different versions in the box, although they have done with the new MacBook Airs, but you only then even get the option of a 30 watt or the dual 35 watt or a 67. If anything, the chances are that they're going to take the chargers out of the boxes on these eventually too, because I think that's also a part of the European Union's stuff around decoupling selling a charger from the device. That's the whole point of having the universal charge ports, so that you can use the ones that you have already. Also, bear in mind that the faster you charge any device, the less lifespan you will get from its battery, because you're going to be heating those batteries a lot more. If you want to maintain the battery life on your iPhone, for example, only ever use the 5 watt charger, charge it slowly overnight, and you'll be absolutely fine. Team Kinetix asks, IK Vancers, iPadOS 16 betas are currently only giving full screen external monitor support for M1 iPads connected to a Magic Keyboard case. Black bars return when the iPad is removed from the Magic Keyboard case. Do you think Apple will extend monitor support to the third-party keyboards or even Bluetooth keyboard and mouse? App support is also buggy, with lots of apps and even Apple Arcade titles loading on the external monitor in portrait mode, which just isn't usable on most external monitors. Do you think this is intended, or will it be remedied before the public release? So there's a few things in there. I think I would hope at least that you will be able to use external third-party keyboard docks, whether that's a Logitech or just a general Bluetooth keyboard and mouse. That should make sense. However, Apple be Apple, and it could be that they will limit it to their own keyboard stands. You've got to have an attached keyboard and mouse in order to be able to use a third-party external display anyway, because they don't have touch support, so you can't use them like an iPad. So there's always going to be those limitations, which is, to be honest, the reason that I don't think that iPads really should need external display support. It's not an issue that enough people that actually use them are running into for it to be something that Apple spends this huge amount of software engineering time on, as far as I'm concerned. However, in terms of the third-party stuff that's going up onto those displays, that's purely going to be the fact that this is the first beta, and the third-party manufacturers of the software, the developers, haven't had time to get their code up to spec. And also, they might not do that until it's publicly released too, because it could cause issues with using external displays now for people that are on the older operating systems, potentially, if the code is a bit jank. Team Kinetix asks, IK Vancers, you suggested an AirDrop dongle of some sort for Windows machines. Do you think Apple would ever really consider something like this, as AirDrop is a massive selling point of the Apple ecosystem? Certainly one of the things that would keep me buying Macs into the future. I don't think that AirDrop sells many Macs, but I think it does keep people in there. That's absolutely true. But I think once people have used a Mac anyway, I don't think many people are then kind of going to buy an Apple Silicon Mac and then go, you know what, I really miss those blue screens of death. So I think the kind of the point I was trying to get to with this was that if they were to get rid of the charging ports and be completely portless, then Apple needs some sort of way really to be able to send data from an iPhone to a Windows PC easily. AirDrop works for that, but equally you could use something like Dropbox, or you could use something like iCloud folders using iCloud on the PC. There are ways, it's just less convenient. And I think Apple would be probably happy to sell a bunch of extra dongles. They do love a dongle. Evan Rogers asks, iCave Answers, how does AirDrop work? Why would ultra-wideband for AirDrop not be a suitable use case? So, my best guess for AirDrop is Witchcraft. Witchcraft comes up quite a lot in this channel, it's weird. No, I think, as far as I understand it, there's like a Bluetooth handshake between devices, which is how you know that they're nearby, and then it creates an ad hoc Wi-Fi network that it transfers those files over. Now, I notice, even when I'm a couple of feet away from my Mac Mini, that the transfers are noticeably slower than when it's right next to it, so I'm pretty sure that it's not communicating across my main Wi-Fi network. So it could be that it is that very near Wi-Fi network that is making it quicker, and I think that's something that's not been really noticed. I might have to do some testing where we try at different distances through walls and that sort of thing, but yeah, as far as I understand, that's the way that it works. I do kind of feel like ultra wideband would work, but you would have to be like super close. Maybe you would have a pad on top of a Mac Mini that is the kind of AirDrop spot. You just tap it on there and it sends it. And the same with like the iMacs, potentially you could have an AirDrop spot with wireless charging built into the foot, which I've been suggesting for years and Apple is just not listening. Next up, Ali Zain Nurani asks, iCave Answers, hi Dave, with iPhone 14 Pros getting 48 megapixel cameras, they will probably also get 8K video. How niche is this feature? Will most tech YouTubers use this feature, at least the ones that use their iPhones for videos like Rene Ritchie, or will it be something specifically for Marques Brownlee? Okay, so when you're talking about Marques Brownlee, he has some of the most expensive and coolest cameras on the planet, so he ain't going to be using his iPhone, even if it is 8K, to film his videos. He might use it for some B-roll, he might use it for cut-in shots, and obviously during testing he will, but he ain't going to be using that as his main camera. Bear in mind as well the sheer size of these files. 4K files are massive. These will be at least 4 times bigger than that, assuming the same frame rate. Why will they get 8K? Well, the interesting thing with 8K is not specifically that you would then publish these videos at 8K, but if you shoot at 8K, for example, we shoot these videos at 2K and then I upload them at full HD, so it basically gives me a little bit of space for cropping in. It means that I've got a full resolution even when I zoom it in and out slightly through my videos, so I get a slightly wider frame than I would actually want, and I'm able to kind of zoom in and out. That's really kind of what it's for, so you can actually get the exact shot that you want in post, more than it is for just shooting 8K for the sake of shooting 8K. I don't think there's many people that would have any way of watching it if it was in 8K anyway. Ali Zain Narani asks, do you think there will be any upgrades to ProRes recording with the iPhone 14? Will it stay at 4K 30, or might Apple be insane enough to try 8K ProRes, or potentially even 4K at 60? Apple was already stretching the limits of their internal SSDs with 4K 60 ProRes. The question is, can they do it again? Marques did an estimate on his Twitter account that 8K ProRes would take 24 GB per second of storage. I think this feature might be limited to the 1TB iPhone, given that it would fill up a 128 GB in 5 seconds. Or might there be a possibility that we can get 4K at 60 ProRes, as I feel a high frame rate is more beneficial than higher resolution these days? I think it's more likely we'd go to 4K at 60, but maybe not in ProRes. The reason for this is basically doubling the frame rate doubles your file size, whereas going up from 4K to 8K quadruples your file size, which you would then double again if you were going up to 60 frames per second. So this is huge file sizes we're talking about here. Now, the only way that Apple could do it in terms of getting the files into storage quickly enough is actually by having multiple storage chips and having dedicated controllers for each of those, which does again add to the cost. This does make life difficult. We have also seen, of course, that the new MacBook Air with M2 can actually deal with a couple of threads of 8K footage at the same time as well, and that suggests to me that yes, we are probably going to be getting 8K footage in the next iPhone. That just makes sense. Put it in your consumer laptop so that people actually have a way of editing this footage that they're shooting other than just on their iPhone. They can't see it on there anyway. So that's kind of my thoughts on this. I think 8K ProRes is going to be very, very tricky, probably unlikely. Alize Narani, do you think Apple will ever create a drone? I've been looking at DJI drones for a bit now, but they're all very good, except for the fact that they always have these little caveats here and there to convince you to buy a $4,000 drone. I think Apple could bring a lot of their new ideas and their proprietary technologies, such as the U1 chip for wireless connectivity to a potential controller and precision finding with my Find My app. They could also benefit from this as they already have a huge ecosystem with lots of creative professionals in it who would buy this at a glance. Now, the big reason I think that Apple might steer clear of drones is safety, because someone gets hit on the head by an Apple drone, it's going to make the news massively in the same way that one person getting followed with an AirTag makes the news instantly, whereas people have been stalked with tile trackers for years and years without anyone batting an eyelid. So because Apple is such a high profile company, anything that has safety implications is like a big no-no for them, I would say. That isn't to say that they won't do it, they couldn't do it, but it would be a very big gamble for Apple to do. People using Apple drones to potentially spy on people in their homes or in their gardens, or doing the Big Bang Theory thing of flying over the American Next Top Model house, or whatever might happen. These are all huge PR blunders that Apple could end up having to deal with because of people misusing their tech. So I think it's unlikely, but let's just say that they did. I think they would put great cameras in there. I think the ease of use would be insanely good, and DJI already do a really good job with this. They will always have caveats because they do want you to buy a nicer one, but I think even the base, like 249 gram DJI Mavic Mini, I think it's called now, like the footage that comes off of these things is incredible, especially when you color grade it. They give you really good ways of capturing it. U1 chip in controllers, I don't think it's got long enough range to be used effectively for that, but some good ideas there. DJI's drones, specifically the Air 2, will look good enough video quality compared to the iPhone 13. Yeah, the video quality from DJI stuff looks really, really good. It does need to be color graded when it comes out. It tends to be quite washed out, but that tends to be because they're using like a log format, especially when you've got pros using it. They want it to look kind of washed out and take the contrast out so that you've got that full range of colours and brightness so that you can do what you need to do with it in post-production. But yes, these cameras are absolutely capable enough to match up with iPhones. So thank you so much for the questions, guys. I gave answers down in the comments if you want to ask a question for the next show. Thank you to all the Patreons over here, and we will see you in the next one. Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell.